What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome to our show today. It is Tuesday, the 21st of August, and we've got a lot of stuff to talk about today. Let me get up to the top of my talking points here. So the phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Mike is in our control room, ready to answer the phone when you call on in. Quick reminder that tomorrow, Layla from Ontario will be our third-hour guest, and Thursday, we will have Don Wiskin from Extendivite as our third-hour guest. And I'm trying to get more guests onto the show here because I'm getting lazy in my old age. But we are trying to get some interesting people here to sort of broaden the program a little bit. Okay, so let's get on into it here. And we're going to start out here up in Afghanistan. Apparently, there is now talk up in Afghanistan about a ceasefire between the imposed puppet government of Afghanistan, imposed by the United States, and the Taliban. And it's basically for 3 months with the possibility of an extension as long as the Taliban preserves and respects it. Basically, they signed this to mark the Muslim Eid al-Adha holiday and comes days after fighting in the central city of Ghazni in a northern province. The Taliban has said it will free hundreds of prisoners and is considering a 4-day truce during the holiday, which runs from today basically through the weekend here. However, Supreme Leader Sheikh Hibatullah Akhundzada has yet to give his final approval. I think he probably will. I'm sure everybody up there is just tired of all the fighting that's going on. I don't know about you, I'm tired of all the fighting that's going on all over the world here. So, now, over in Syria, somebody's trying to deal with this issue of civilian casualties, especially after that school bus incident in Yemen. And they're actually coming up with an app to go on smartphones to allegedly protect Syrian civilians from becoming victims of airstrikes. Now, I don't know how they're going to get this to work because obviously the Syrian militants can get hold of the app and say, hey, I'm really a civilian, don't hit me. So I don't know how workable this is going to be. But apparently this is coming from Andrew Gold of Wired and saying that, yeah, we can make this work. We can have an app that will identify civilians so that they will not be bombed by accident. We bomb those civilians, it'll be deliberate here. Okay, now a lot of people are asking if Israel is getting ready to join what's being called the Arab NATO aimed against Iran. And certainly Israel is going to be in favor of anything that is going to take down Iran. Because prior to all of this Middle East warfare going on, Israel had two political rivals in the region, Iraq and Iran. Now, Iraq has been destroyed, courtesy of the United States of America. And now Israel wants Iran to be wiped out. And they're basically trying to line up with the Sunni Arab countries in the Middle East to basically go after Iran. And the question is going to be, how active will Israel itself be in this war? And my guess is going to be not very. They'll certainly stand on the sidelines and cheer like crazy. But Israel always prefers it if other people fight their wars for them. Now, the other day we were talking about the statement that came out of the U.S. government on how U.S. forces will remain in Iraq basically for as long as needed, ostensibly to prevent the rise of ISIS and Al-Qaeda, but in reality to make sure that Iraq doesn't dare sell its oil for any currency other than the U.S. dollar. But a lot of people are saying this is not really a good idea. And there's an article in Fars News saying that the U.S. occupying Iraq forever is the last thing the world needs now. And I'm totally in agreement, because this permanent occupation, this garrisoning of Iraq by the U.S., It goes against international law and what the international civil society wants, which is troop withdrawal. Same thing applies to Syria. And the U.S. is saying, well, we have to stabilize the Middle East. In other words, make sure they do what we tell them to do. Now, Russia has announced they will deliver the first batch of S-400 air defense missiles to Turkey next year. And of course, this has been a real sore point with the United States, that Turkey bought their air defense systems from Russia rather than the United States. But if there's one thing Russia got out of this experience in Syria, it was an actual combat test of some of their weaponry, which proved to be really much more cost-effective than the U.S. equivalents. So the U.S. is out there stamping its feet. How dare you dare to buy your weapons from Russia. And speaking of Russia, they have just launched their biggest military exercise in 40 years in partnership with China. They're starting this next month. And basically, Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu said Russia's military forces in the country's east were on high alert ahead of a 5-day snap inspection of troops to pave the way for the massive exercise called Vostok 2018. And he said Vostok 2018 will be unprecedented in scale, both in terms of area of operations and numbers of military command structure. So they're gearing up. They're basically gearing up, and they're going to show off what they can do. And I'm sure there'll be all kinds of U.S. surveillance keeping an eye and say, boy, can these Russians really do what they say that they can do here? Okay, now, over in Europe, specifically Italy, there are now a bunch of their cities that are standing up and uniting to demand a military embargo against Israel for its repeated crimes against the Palestinians. And the city councils of Naples, Turin, Bologna, Florence, and Pisa have all demanded their respective state governments and the international community impose a military embargo against Israel and to hold it accountable for its crimes against the Palestinians. And the cities called for this action in compliance with the European Union Code of Conduct on Arms Exports, as Italy is considered one of the main European arms exporters to Israel. So, again, I think that Bloody Monday massacre was Israel's Amritsar. World opinion has turned against them. There was absolutely no justification for what Israel has been doing to the people of Gaza. None whatsoever. Now, as you know, over the decades, there has always been this debate about Israel's nuclear weapons. Do they have them? Do they not? And Israel's attitude has always been, maybe we do, and maybe we don't. We're not going to say. And the U.S. attitude has been, maybe they do, and maybe they don't. We're not going to say. But interestingly enough, a document recently surfaced that basically laid out guidelines that any U.S. government official commenting on Israel's nuclear arsenal is subject to termination because it's classified national security information. Now, if there were no nuclear bombs over there, this document would not exist. It wouldn't need to exist. So in a kind of a left-handed way, this is confirmation. The U.S. government knows Israel has nuclear weapons. And there is a lawsuit now, basically against the U.S. Department of State and the Department of Energy over this damaging doctrine. So it's not like anybody doesn't know Israel is a nuclear power. For one thing, when the former government of South Africa fell, some of the documents that surfaced from that previous regime showed that South Africa and Israel were working together to develop South Africa's nuclear arsenal. And it's often thought that the Vela incident was a nuclear test of a South African nuclear weapon. And documents also surfaced showing that Israel at one point was trying to sell South Africa a nuclear weapon. Which raises the question, who else has Israel sold a nuclear weapon to around the world? There may be more nukes out there than anybody realizes. Israel refuses to sign the Non-Proliferation Treaty or allow IAEA inspections. The Non-Proliferation Treaty has created a monopoly market. All those nations that have nuclear weapons, that have signed the Non-Proliferation Treaty, they're not allowed to sell those weapons. Israel's got the market all for themselves. They can charge whatever they want. Such a deal. So there's a question that does need to be asked and answered. How many other countries has Israel sold nuclear weapons to? Speaking of Israel again, they finally found one more Nazi camp guard that they can wave in front of the world to say, see, Holocaust, Holocaust, feel sorry for us, forget about the Gazans and the Palestinians. We were victims of this horrible Holocaust. We found another Nazi camp guard. And so the United States has now deported this Jaco Palish. He's 95 years old. They're deporting him to Germany, where he will be put on trial for whatever it is they're going to make up about it. And could be a huge embarrassment. He could actually die before the trial gets underway. That's what happened last time. Netanyahu was down there going, darn it, darn it, darn it, darn it, darn it. We're running out of Nazis. Okay, we got to put their children on trial now. We got to start parading their children in front of the world's cameras. We can't let anybody forget about the Holocaust and why they have to feel sorry for us no matter what we do to the Palestinians and everybody else here. Okay, so let's see. Now, the other day we were talking about the situation happening down in Tunisia, where dock workers were refusing to unload a cargo ship that was basically working for Israel. And apparently this is spread all over Tunisia to the point where Israel's Zim shipping line is halting all of its shipments to Tunisia. They're indefinitely suspending their services to Tunisia, to the port of Rhodes, following this popular and trade union boycott campaign. So like I said, that Bloody Monday massacre, that was Israel's Amritsar. It has become a focal point for the change of world opinion on what Israel is doing. Over in North Korea, they've announced they're going to allow UN inspectors to observe all future missile launches. And they're going to allow the United Nations International Civil Aviation Organization to conduct an on-site inspection of the country's missile launches in order to ensure the safety of international flights from the country's launches. In other words, make sure that they're not shooting the missiles anywhere civilian aviation might be. I would sort of imagine North Korea probably already had access to that information. It's available online. You can get websites that show you where aircraft are going. But again, this is a gesture that North Korea is trying to play by the rules. They're trying to reintegrate with the rest of the world. They're allowing people from South Korea to visit North Korea, to visit relatives they've been separated from since the Korean War. They're talking about ending the Korean War. It's way overdue. Let's not kid ourselves about that. And we're seeing signs that Moon Jae-in and Kim Jong-un are seriously looking at reunification. But as expected, the United States wants to throw a monkey wrench in there. And U.S. Ambassador to South Korea, Harry Harris, is saying, oh, it's way too early to end the Korean War. I mean, it just only got started 60 years ago. You know, it's still in the early phases, you know. And we got to keep that thing going. Okay. Down in the Philippines, President Duterte is slamming Washington, D.C. because apparently Washington, D.C. was trying to do to the Philippines what they tried to do in Turkey and say that you can't buy your weapons from Russia. You have to buy them from the United States. And yes, they cost more and they don't work as well, but if you're a loyal ally of the United States, you'll buy our crappy products. And Duterte said, who are you to warn us? And the Philippines are saying that they're going to buy submarines from Russia. They won't use them against the United States. But again, it's another example of this bullying approach to other countries that's simply not working. Because the world is now seeing the United States as a failing empire, an empire in decline. It's like an aged lion, growling and thrashing and clawing at the air, but everybody knows it's old and weak and not really capable of that much harm here. In fact, there was an interesting article that came out from Zero Hedge about the telltale signs of imperial decline. And let's see, a growing love of money as an end in itself. Yeah, we got that one. A lengthy period of wealth and ease, which makes people complacent. They lose their edge. They forget their traits that built the civilization. Yeah, we've unfortunately gone through that. Selfishness and self-absorption. Yeah, look at the selfie sticks. Loss of any sense of duty to the common good. Yeah, we've got all of those telltale signs. We are an empire in decline, heading for a collapse here. And over in China, they're saying they see signs of a U.S. decline behind the bloated Pentagon budget. And the emerging multipolar global environment has convinced observers that here in the United States, the U.S. government is confronting this decline in its status as the world's foremost hegemonic power. Because we are in decline. We can't make headway in Afghanistan. We're having to stay in Iraq. We've lost in Syria. Meanwhile, here at home, our country's falling apart for lack of infrastructure. So, anyway, turning to the domestic politics here. And apparently the jury in the Manafort trial still cannot come to an agreement on at least one of the counts. And they're still deliberating. They've sent another note to the judge. So we'll see what's going to happen there. Meanwhile, Trump's former attorney, Michael Cohen, has taken a plea deal on his charges regarding these $20 million in loan obtained by this taxi business owned by Cohen and his families. And officials were also looking into hush payments Cohen had arranged with women who allegedly had sexual encounters with Trump. Now, that one is a little bit of spin, because what they're talking about is this former Playboy centerfold. And this wasn't really hush money. She wanted to sell the story. And she sold the story for a sum of money to a publication company. And Michael Cohen arranged for the publication company to resell the rights to the story back to Trump. So that was actually kind of an above-board situation. But Michael Cohen at this point is looking at between 3 and 5 years in prison, unless he comes up with a really good lie to fry Donald Trump, at which point I'm sure Robert Mueller will pull some strings and see to it he serves no jail time. Now, speaking of serving no jail time, remember Imran Awan? Well, the federal judge in his case, in the bank fraud case, has sentenced him to time served. He gets to walk. All right, we're going to take a break here now for some commercials, and we'll be right back after these few words.
corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
Some are maxed out all their credit cards. Some are working 2 jobs and living in cars. Minimum wage won't pay for a roof, won't pay for a drink. If you gotta have proof, just try it yourself, Mr. CEO. See how far $5.15 an hour will go. Take a part-time job at one of your stores. I bet you can't make it here anymore.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And yes, once again, I am standing here in front of you. I would be on my knees, but it would take a forklift to get me back up again, begging you to help Republic Broadcasting, because there literally is a war going on right now between the liars and the truth tellers, between corporate media and independent media, between those who want to convert this nation into a warmongering tyranny and those of us who sort of think the Constitution and the Bill of Rights is still a pretty nifty way to run a country here. So the postal address where you can send a check or money order, or if you prefer anonymity, cash, is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Road, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number where you can call in with a debit or credit card donation or pledge to be a recurring subscriber is 800-724-2719, extension 1 during business hours, extension 3 at all other times. The network thanks you. We really do need your help, and there's no such thing as too small a donation. Anyway, thank you very much. We're going to go to the phones here now. Dustin in New Jersey, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Mike, all empires go away and well, I forgot the British person's name is Sir something. He said average lifespan of an empire is 250 years, and we're there. You know, you can feel it and see it and taste it.
Yes.
As of now.
Yep.
You know, and isn't it odd, Mike? We're spending so much money in the military. We're not like we're stuck. We're stuck in the Middle East, though. We're spending more money, but we're not. We've reached like basically a wall.
Yes.
You know, I mean, it's either shrink the empire, get rid of the empire, or your country's finished. You know, as you know, it used to be a constitutional republic. You know, we're there. You know, you can't continue this because to continue is your demise. That's how I look at it.
The problem is that the United States, like ancient Rome, funds itself on its foreign conquests. We don't have anything in the United States itself anymore. Our manufacturing has been in decline for 30 years, and nobody really likes our GMO agriculture anymore. So we don't really have anything. And America has become dependent on, you know, conquering other countries for their natural resources, or at least to coerce them into using our paper dollar, off of which we make a small bit of interest when they're using it.
But you look at that, and like, you know, all fiat currencies return to their, you know, intrinsic value, which is zero, and you got to follow where the gold flows. It's flowing to the east. It's been flowing to the east for more than 10 years at least.
Oh yeah, they're buying all
power
kinds of stuff now. Yeah,
that's where the power's going, Mike. You know, that where the gold flow is where the power is shifting to. It's been shifting to, you know, and it's just sad how, you know, the average American really doesn't understand that. You know, we're bred in circuses. Point, like, you know, remember the movie The Hunger Games? That was the same thing, right? Where you had one city which was left on the outskirt. People were the guinea pigs to watch the war, the fighting between each other, right? But the people in the city was Washington D.C. was the beneficiaries of, you know, of the power. You know, like they were all, you know, there's a decadence to that, you know.
There certainly is, and what's really amazing, and people don't understand this as well, wherever the money is going to, obviously the government buildings in Washington D.C. You know, are well tended and cared for. But the city itself is as run down and decrepit as pretty much any place else in the country. In fact, I remember there was this movie, one of the Jason Bourne films. I think it was the last one in the franchise there, where Jason Bourne is meeting this CIA lady in this Washington Park, and I remember just looking at the pavement was so broken up. It called attention to itself. And I said, wow, this is the nation's capital, and it looks like this? You know, there's a real problem there.
Isn't it amazing, though? The Washington, D.C. looks like Rome. The building, you know, the pillars and all the yeah, basically they got a high crime rate there, and the outskirts of that city, you know, you get run down, just like Chicago is going to start appearing. But when you get into that inner circle city, that's kept up, the Ring of Steel, per se. And hey, Mike, there was just a report. I forgot where it was, but it says, you know, the rich, you know, obviously the rich live on the west and the east coast in the coastal cities. And then, like, the rural areas, the Rust Belt, is where, like, the people move, you know, because people can't afford to live in the cities, you know, like anymore, because it's so expensive because of the bubble, you know, with the high prices.
Well, the rich are living on the coasts, and the poor are moving to the central states' rural areas, which, you know, is actually not that bad. I mean, if Claire and I get back to the mainland, which is our next big project here, you know, we're looking at somewhere around Indiana is where we'd like to settle down and just have it quiet. Anyway, Dustin, listen, I need to put you on hold. We're going to take a break here for some commercials. I'm going to come right back to you after these words from our sponsors.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds, up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield Tactical Bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, the panic is on. Can't get no way, can't draw no pay. Unemployment gets worse.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And we're talking with Dustin in New Jersey. And Dustin, if you could just sort of pick it up from where you left off.
Yeah, Mike, you were saying, if you're ever you'll move to India. Stay out of the East and West Coast, everybody. If you have the money, move. You don't need a big house. If you have a couple acres, you can be your own, be self-sustained. You don't need to rely on the stores because maybe they're not always going to be there. Just like buying gold and silver, it doesn't hurt to buy a couple grams of this or that, whatever you can afford.
Mm-hmm.
It's an insurance policy. It's better than buying like plastic, TV or something you don't really need. You got to protect your wealth and protect your family. At this point, it's just everything's a bubble, and it's just pretty creepy what's going on though. Like with all this stuff with Turkey and the stock market, and this is the time people should at least have some protection for themselves. Learn how to farm. Maybe you don't need like I said, less than 3 acres.
Absolutely. Everybody should be learning how to. Everybody should be a prepper right now, whether you're dealing with a potential tsunami or a hurricane or an economic crash or invasion. Now's the time to start building up your reserves and getting ready, and and learning how to be self-sufficient. And I know it's very difficult because we live in a culture that encourages dependency on corporations, encourages dependency on the government. They don't want you to be self-sufficient because dependency equals slavery. Dependency means control. And self-sufficient people who can take care of themselves, are much harder to control. So there's one way you can strike a blow for liberty without breaking any laws, is learning how to take care of yourself.
And yeah, Mike, like, you know, it's not hard. You go on YouTube and learn how to, like, I mean, it's no basic. You don't even have to go on YouTube to learn how to put potatoes in the ground or string beans or carrots. You got to maintain that, you know, or pickling stuff. It's very simple.
Yes,
you know, it's just, you know, you got to, you know what I mean? It's like, it's not a hard thing.
No, it isn't, but there is a skill set, and you need to start doing it now so that you're doing it correctly when the time comes when you're actually going to need it. Whether it's the actual farming or the food preservation, and yeah, I mean, looking at all that's going on right now, everybody should be looking at having basic prepping supplies. Lots of water. Water's the first thing you're at risk of running out of. Storable food, weapons, emergency radios, extras of your prescription medication. All that sort of stuff.
It just makes me laugh, Mike. I see people, they want to live like the Joneses. They buy these big homes with tall ceilings. They have a family of 3 maybe.
Yeah.
They got, 4 bedrooms, this or that. And you look at all the wasted space, and they just, they rely on the stores or whatever for their, for their sustenance. I think they said, was the average American has less than 3 days worth of food. I mean, that's insane.
That
and,
absolutely
when we
is
had
insane.
Sandy over here.
Yeah,
we had Sandy in New Jersey, Mike. It was.
You should have, 2 months worth of storable food, in your garage or in your storage locker or wherever you're going to keep it. And I know it takes up a lot of room, and that's one of the first problems that preppers run into is that they start running out of room to keep all that stuff. But you got to make that room. You got to have 2 months worth of food, and 2 months worth of water. Obviously, is going to be very difficult. But you ought to have at least a couple of weeks worth of water plus a really good water filter. And the one we have, and I can't remember the brand name right now, this will actually turn raw sewage into drinkable water. And it was very expensive, but they are out there and you can get them.
And Mike, people who have pantries that have tall ceilings or whatever that's taller than them, all you have to do is build just a jacked up floor slightly and store canned stuff under there. So there's a lot of ways you can make room.
Put in shelving. Put in all kinds of shelving.
Yeah, that's it.
That's what we did when we moved into here. We've got a closet down in the kitchen, which has the water heater and stuff in there. And the first thing we did was put a shelving unit in there. And yeah, it's great.
All right, Mike, thanks. Have a good show.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch over to Dave in Missouri. Aloha, Dave. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, howdy, Mike. God bless you. Hope you're doing well.
Doing all right.
I'm going to pick up right where you guys left off. I love Indiana. I mean, I travel the country. Indiana's a beautiful state. I might recommend to you, though, just to consider the Ozarks. And the reason I say that is property is still reasonably cheap. You can find a lot of 40, 80-acre farms here that have farmhouses with cellars, with wells, everything you need, good fencing. We have 120 acres. We've got 40 big cows, 40 calves, 80 head of cows total, 3 ponds, 2 wells. One is 80 feet deep and pumps just the purest water you ever seen. Our other one was 320 feet deep, the one that runs the house. But we're kind of making some improvements to the property. Mm-hmm. We also have a spring that runs through. And so the DNR, Department of Natural Resources, wants us to fence off our spring, and they've got a program to help us pay for that. And we're going to use the 80-foot well to provide water through an irrigation system for our cattle, because I don't like them running in the ponds. Who wants them? Our ponds are stocked. Who wants your pond drained by cattle in there all the time?
Yep.
I might recommend the Ozarks to you. Ozark, Missouri, Nixa, outside Springfield. Springfield's a beautiful place. If you want to get down into Arkansas, where I spent 20 years, Blytheville, Berryville, Batesville, Mountain Home, which is my favorite place. There's just a lot of alternatives here in the Ozarks, and people kind of look us over. People are friendly. Anywhere you go, you'll get help with anything you need. Your neighbors are not going to be a problem to you. There's not trash all over the places like you see anytime you get anywhere near a big city where you've got a dense population. It's gross traveling the country. I mean, I'm just disgusted by what I see around the city.
No, I agree, and we have those same problems here on the island of Oahu. Now, the other islands here in Hawaii are very laid back. They're old Hawaii, but Oahu is now very crowded. We have our own problem with homeless and illegal immigrants and refugees, and there's trash everywhere, and the roads are in terrible condition. But what you're describing where you are, it does sound like heaven on earth. It sounds a lot like what we experienced when we were living in Washington State. But the reason we're talking about Indiana is closeness to family, which at this stage in our life is mostly in Indiana, not entirely, and a lot of them up in the New England area. So draw a line from Indiana up to, say, Boston, and somewhere along there in a very rural setting is where Claire and I ideally would like to relocate. Although, to be very honest, looking at what's been going on in the streets of America these last couple of months, with Antifa and Black Lives Matter, even Claire is saying now that she's kind of glad we're here in the islands.
And I get that, and I didn't really want to bring that up, and I hate to say it, but, as I travel the country, you cannot help but notice those areas that have the more denser, and I'm just going to say minority populations, because that's not actually probably the case anymore, but, man, there's no self-respect, there's no respect for anything, not for the infrastructure, not for the neighbors, the neighborhoods, certainly not for the environment. I mean, trash, it's so thick that I don't know that you could ever clean it up along the ditches and highways of once beautiful, great American cities, which have been decimated by populations who didn't build it, but they can sure destroy it. And once they've destroyed it, they're not going to do anything about it. And then who's going to come in and clean up their mess? Especially when they're still there making the mess. So, and of course they're all Democrat voters. That goes without saying. So, what I'm seeing today is that if you really do want to preserve any kind of legacy or livelihood or decent quality of life for your family, you almost have to go rural, and you have to get away from those populations who are so self-loathing they won't even pick up the trash in their yard, And so, and it's obvious and easy to see as you travel the country. I mean, you could not get more stark between Kentucky and places in Georgia. I mean, it's just it blows your mind that people have so little respect about their own environment where they're going to raise their children. I mean, I don't understand the mindset. If there is a mindset.
I'll tell you what part of it is. I'll tell you what part of it is when you're dealing with the illegal immigrant population and the refugees. These are people who don't have an emotional connection with where they're living right now. Now, where I grew up in New England farming country, I've got a very strong emotional resonance to it. And I would want the place to be well taken care of. I would want to make sure there wasn't litter in the road. But people who have come here, especially illegally, and they're looking out for immigration, the refugees have been brought in, they don't have that emotional connection. It's just a place. And so they won't have any respect or fondness for it. And that's why you wind up seeing like the situation you've got up in San Francisco, where they're literally pooping on the streets up there.
Yeah, and I want to follow up what Dustin said about gardening. I mean, we have it's probably a 1/4 acre garden, and we planted ours late this year because we have all of our family gardens, and they usually plant early. So, we get their produce. We've been eating their produce for the past couple of months. Well, ours is coming on now, big, and so we're able to share it back out. Plus, of course, my wife cans. We have a root cellar. We've got a big pantry full of the shells and everything. We just butchered a cow. It was the craziest cow, man. She had this calf and she wouldn't let it milk. She just kept throwing it up in the air with his head until she killed the calf. So I butchered her, turned her all into hamburger. I've got the leanest hamburger in the world right now. I mean, I didn't even make steaks out of this one because I've got a few that I'm going to do for that. But I mean, I have 200 pounds of the leanest, best hamburger in the world. I've got generators in case the power goes down.
Okay, you've sold me. You sold me. I'm coming over for dinner tonight.
Dude, come on, man. I'm going to make you a hamburger steak like you've never seen. I've still got some T-bones in there from the last cow we butchered. You know, and I had 30 deer down in my pasture. I'm sitting on my porch right now, and I'm looking over about 80 acres of the property. The other 40 is kind of in front of the house. We're way back here, rural, probably 7 miles from the nearest, if you would call it a town. It's got a Dollar General and a convenience store. About 9 miles from an actual town where there's a grocery store, and I've got to go back to this because Dustin, he pushed my buttons. Yeah, the money's been flowing to the east, and it has been not for 10 years, for 30 years, because the rural economies that we are talking about were invaded a long time ago by a corporation who come in, buy America, fought both political parties, then located the first overseas buying office in Taiwan, started flooding rural markets as soon as they could under Bill Clinton, with NAFTA, GATT, WTO, but even before that, with Made in China. Of course, it was labeled Made in Taiwan. You peel the label Made in China. Walmart shoppers have decimated the middle class, America's industry, destroyed their neighbors' and children's opportunities in these rural economies, all by carrying their money to Walmart, buying Made in China. So, yeah, you can point the finger, at the corporations, but you got to also look at the throng of fools who have run off this cliff. So where else is the money going to go when everybody's buying Made in China and nobody values, that your neighbor might have a job, that these factories that used to be here, were here sometimes 50 years, 60 years, providing living wage jobs to families, which are gone now because people can't see past the nose on their face. Well, out here in the country, we do. I can't keep them out of Walmart. God knows I've tried, but we don't all do it. We're not all slaves to that stupidity. A lot of us still try to be self-reliant. Oh, by the way, we just had a little baby Petron colt. You know what a Petron horse is. They're massive, we didn't even know she was pregnant. She was so big, we didn't even know she was pregnant. And come out in the yard about a week and a half ago. Here's a little male colt. Oh, it's been so much fun to watch him grow up, man. And so that's the kind of thing you can do in the country that the city folk either have no appreciation of, or they just haven't had the opportunity to breathe fresh air. I mean, I'm sitting out here in my yard right now. This is paradise. And we put a lot of money and a lot of work into it. But this is paradise. And it's only paradise because we care enough to make it so, I mean,
well, there's another aspect there as well, and that is that, decades of corporate media, movies, TV shows have sort of denigrated that rural farmer lifestyle. TV shows like Green Acres or Petticoat Junction. I mean, to name two of the worst offenders out there. And anybody who's actually lived that lifestyle, as you and I have, we understand what terrible misrepresentations these programs were. But it was part of this agenda of trying to get people to leave the rural areas and collect together in the cities where it is easier to take economic advantage of them.
I've got 2 John Deere tractors sitting here, just traded for a big cab tractor, big wheel drive. I don't need it. I'll probably wind up selling it, but I've got it. I've got a John Deere Gator here. I'm going to run down in the field here in a little bit and take some salt cubes down to I call it cow crack, down to the cattle. You ought to see them coming. I mean, my wife has these things so spoiled. It is so hard for me to isolate a cow to butcher because she's got them all named. I mean, I can't win.
That's getting a little too close. But, mea culpa maxima, I named all of my livestock too when I was a kid. And that's the hard part about being a farming person, is realizing that when you're holding that cute little fuzzy chick at Easter, that later that year you've got to turn it into a chicken dinner. Anyway, listen.
Chicken
Dave,
and dumplings, bud. Hey, I love you. Folks, please support RBN. Mike, you're the best in the world. I hear you.
All right. Well, thank you very much here. We're going to let you go. We got 2 more callers waiting on the line, but I'm going to leave them until after this coming commercial break here. Apparently, Robert Mueller filed a document last Friday regarding George Papadopoulos, who received a mysterious $10,000 cash payment from somebody that Papadopoulos thought might have been a foreign spy. So, again, nothing about Trump-Russia collusion. In fact, the foreign spy was not Russian. We're going to take a break for commercials. Back with these phone calls after these few words.
Hi, folks. CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. There's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com.
Do you worry a lot? Whether you're a college student, busy professional, parent, or grandparent, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in 1 to 2 weeks. Call 1-800-758-8746 or calmandclever.com.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcast. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
My name is Don Wiskin, and at 42 years old, I suffered a massive heart attack, lost 35% of my heart to damaged tissue, and was supposed to spend the rest of my life on disability. What did I do? I took Extendivite, a garlic and cayenne mix of 7 herbs which rebuilt my heart and gave me back my life. For over 17 years now, I have made this formula available to you, so you don't have to suffer the same thing I did. Clean your blocked arteries and strengthen your heart and boost your natural immune system. I'm 60 years old now, and I still work every day. To get your Extendivite, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822, or visit heartdrop.com. Extendivite is only $69.95 for a 2-month supply of either capsules or liquid.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
If you got the money, honey, we got the bombs. We'll plant them anywhere you like and blow up anyone. Whip this world into a frenzy, killing babies, dads, and moms. If you got the money, honey, we got the bombs. If you got the money, well, we won't say we did. The towers in New York.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. And apparently the verdicts are in the Manafort case. He's been found guilty on 8 counts, and the judge has declared a mistrial on the other 10. So we're going to go to the phones now here, and we're going to start with Dave in Delaware. Aloha, Dave. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, what's going on, Mike? How you doing?
Doing fine.
Oh, great. I was just calling in. I wanted to talk about the Talpiot program. Have you ever heard of that?
Rings a bell. Do enlighten us.
Oh, okay. Have you ever heard of Ron Gibson's YouTube channel?
Oh, yeah. Ron Gibson archives a lot of my programs.
Yeah, it was great. He got shut down, right?
I was not aware of that, but I'm hardly surprised.
Yeah, I know. It's funny because, do you ever know that people employ bots and, like, fake accounts on different channels and stuff?
Yeah, I know that's been a big problem with social media all along, including with social media itself that's trying to artificially inflate their viewer and reader numbers to boost their advertising revenues.
Yeah, I got that. It's good to talk to you, too, Mike, because I came over here from, like, Alex Jones's channel.
Okay.
You still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. You're still on the air.
Oh, thanks, Mike. What do you think about like people that shadow ban other like content and stuff, like different accounts?
Well, obviously, I'm a supporter of the First Amendment, and I think it should apply to social media just as it applies to television and radio and the newspapers. We're supposed to have freedom of speech, and it's rather amazing to see the same liberals that drove a baker out of business for refusing to make a wedding cake for a gay couple scream that it's okay for Facebook and Google and YouTube to ban users they don't like. But I think given the importance of social media in our political discourse, they're the new town square. And I think the First Amendment should be made to apply to them. And at some point, there's going to have to be a lawsuit, probably going to go all the way to the Supreme Court, saying that, yes, if you're in social media, obviously, people who are preaching violence or threatening or anything like that is an exception. But just banning people because you don't agree with their politics or banning people because they question the official story should not be tolerated. The First Amendment is an absolute right recognized in that First Amendment of the Bill of Rights.
Have you ever heard of the account 408 Magenta?
No.
He comments on your page like every day, and he posts like anti-Zionism, like all kinds of weird stuff all the time.
Well, I know that there's a lot of people out there who comment about what I'm doing, and some are positive and some are less so, but I generally just don't pay attention to them. Anyway, listen, Dave, I'm going to have to let you...
You want me over to the break?
No, actually, Dave, I got another caller waiting on the line who's been waiting very, very patiently. So, Dave, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go, do a station identification, and be back with another phone call after these few words.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll-free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, hour number 2. And we're going to go right back to the phones here to Milton in Pennsylvania. And Milton, aloha. Welcome to the show. Thank you for waiting so patiently. What's on your mind?
Okay, Mike, in investing, and I'm a real idiot when it comes to the knowledge on silver and gold.
Mm-hmm.
I almost went down and bought bulk silver this weekend, but I got cold feet because I was wondering, well, after I get this, what do I do with it? You know, and I didn't want to do gold because my logic thinking is, well, if I want a loaf of bread, I'm not going to give you a gold piece that's worth, you know, so much money. But with bulk silver, I could give you a dime and maybe get me a loaf of bread or a bologna sandwich. What would you say?
Well, generally, yes. If you're talking about stockpiling coinage for the event of an economic collapse, then yes, definitely you want to look at what's called the junk silver, which are those pre-1964 coins that have no numismatic value, but they have the melt value of the silver inside the quarters and the dimes, the nickel in the nickel, and the copper in the penny. And those are a recognizable unit of uniform exchange. And that's really a good way to go. And to be prudent, what you want to do is, you know, check what the, you know, current price of silver is and look very carefully at what you're buying. Make sure that you're not paying too much of an uplift. You're going to pay a little bit, you know, of an uplift, but it's a good way of having a medium of exchange that will survive the collapse of the paper dollar. The reason for having gold is much more long-term, and it's wealth preservation, and it assumes that on the far side of an economic collapse, there's going to be somebody who will buy that gold from you for whatever currency is in circulation at the time. But for preppers, I definitely recommend that junk silver. You can get it on all kinds of websites, including eBay. Like I said, it's a recognizable unit of exchange. Everybody knows what a quarter and a dime looks like, and as long as the date on the coin is early enough, they'll know it represents real silver and real value.
Okay, one other fast question, okay?
Okay.
Should you buy this stuff and try not to leave a paper trail?
Probably the less paper trail that you leave is going to be the better, because in the event of an economic crash, you can count on the U.S. government just trying to grab everything that's out there. Remember, Roosevelt grabbed all the gold back in, I think it was 1933. Again, you know, you don't want to do this at like flea markets, because there's a lot of fraud out there. There's a lot of counterfeit silver coins that are out there. And so you need to go to a reputable dealer, pay cash, get a receipt. If you're not that worried about being spied on, you can go, like I said, you can go through eBay.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I just wanted, then the best thing to do is just hang on to that, and when the country comes back and there's a worth of bills, then you could trade it in for value of real money, yes?
Well, you can do whatever you want with it, but yeah, you just grab it, you put it someplace that's going to be cool and dry, because silver does tarnish. I mean, the silver coins have metals other than silver in them for durability. But everybody understands that there is real silver inside those coins, and they're a unit of recognized value. But yeah, you just grab it, you put it in wherever it is you're storing your prepper supplies, someplace safe. You don't tell anybody that you've got it, because the first rule of prepping is you don't talk about prepping, because it makes you a target when things start coming apart.
Okay, Mike. that makes me feel better because, like I said, I was going to buy some, and I got cold feet, but I feel a little bit better about it now. And I wish you and Claire the best. So we meet again.
Thank you very much here. You know, the good thing about junk silver is you don't have to buy a lot. Just buy what you're comfortable with. You know, wait a few weeks, buy a little bit more if you're comfortable with. And, you know, the ultimate reality is you're going to be able to turn around and resell it if you need to get your cash back. It's not like you're just throwing the money away into a hole someplace. Anyway, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go. And boy, the phone lines are loaded up. We're going to switch to Layla in Ontario. Aloha, Layla. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, hi, Michael. Sorry I'm calling in today, but I just want to present a couple of problems. I would say the first thing that people have to do is get together with a colony of people so that they can defend themselves.
Yep.
Assuming that even if you buy silver, remember the old-time movies where when somebody gave them a coin, the guy would bite it? Because very often everything is only plated. I remember buying a Dunhill cigarette lighter in Europe with all kinds of documentation that it was 22 karat gold. Well, when I tried to sell it to Burke's, which is a great jeweler, he said, this is only gold plated. It's worth nothing. My brother...
Okay, I'd like to back up a little bit, Layla. Okay, that image of people biting a gold coin is because a pure 24 karat gold coin is soft enough where your teeth will leave marks in it. That's where that comes from.
That's my point. That's my point. So what I'm saying is that whatever looks like it's silver could be a very thin covering, and it's just rot. It's just common metal on the inside. We don't really know. And furthermore, even if somebody had assurances that the silver or the gold that they bought is largely majority silver or gold, who are you going to sell it to? What is the value of it? What do you exchange it for? It's not like in the old days when that was a means of exchange and there was a way to measure it by grams. Those days are gone. And the other thing you do is once you produce one piece of silver that's worth, or gold that's worth anything, you leave yourself wide open for attack. So all of these people who are talking about farmsteads with huge acreage, that means that you've got a lot of exposure all around wherever you're living. What people need to do is get together in terms of compounds, communal living. It used to be extended families. That's why tribes used to live together. And no matter how much food that you have, eventually it's going to go rotten. And the other thing, too, is once people know you have a storage of food, if there's a shortage, once again, you're vulnerable to attack. Now, one thing that nobody likes to talk about is what used to happen in the ancient past, cannibalism. Mm-hmm. When food actually runs out and their pets and people and their cows and other cattle have been stolen, then they become, the advantage of cannibalism is not only do you find food to eat, but you also eliminate a rival for food.
Yep.
So one of the most important things is learning how to defend yourself. If you don't know how to use guns and rifles, learn now while you still can. Find people that you trust, because extended families no longer have the kinds of loyalties or bonds that we used to have. So you're going to have to find friends that you can trust and who will be able to defend one another. And you've got to get together in colonies.
Well, what you need to do, if you live in an urban environment or suburban, as Claire and I do, is now's the time to start networking with your neighbors. You know, pull back from the social media, pull back from the TVs and all the computational devices. Go on out and just actually interact with your neighbors, because they will be your support group when things get really, really tough. And you learn what each other's skills are. You know, who can fix wiring, who can fix the plumbing, who is capable of acting as a guard, who's willing to pull the trigger on an invader, and so forth and so on. But you're absolutely right. Anybody who's prepping, you do have to look at the reality that if the fact that you're a prepper does get out, you have become a target. And you need to be ready and willing to defend yourself with either a firearm or maybe even a hunting bow, just whatever it takes. That is a reality. The rest of the community, you're a target. No question about that.
Yeah, the other thing is, the most important thing is that people will have to do, assuming we remain somewhat civilized and don't resort to the worst kind of violence, is we have to go back to bartering. You grow something, somebody else has some textiles that you need for clothing, you exchange that. That's the kind of thing that will work, because there's no other way to measure the value of something that may or may not be all silver or all gold. Anyway, I'm calling in tomorrow, so I don't want to take up any more time. But the most important thing, and talk about neighbors. Actually, neighbors are probably the worst people to make alliances with in our modern society. My experience has been that neighbors know your weaknesses, and they may not be the ones you can rely on. What you have to have is friends that you've known for many, many years, possibly even decades, and then know that you can trust them to turn your back on them. Because the other thing, too, is once you form colonies and food starts to run out, the ones within the colonies may be the first to stab you in the back so that there's more food for them. So we're facing, if indeed there is a collapse of all the systems that we currently have, and the possibility is very real, the most important thing is learning who you can trust and how to defend yourself, and how to grow your own food, and learn how to barter. And I think I've said more than enough for today.
All right. Well, thanks an awful lot for the phone call. We're going to let you go here. I don't think the coming collapse is going to get that bad. Okay. So we're going to do a shout out now from our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining the network. And we're going to take another phone call from Danny in Tennessee. Aloha, Danny. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, just thinking about the talk about the social media banning and shadow banning and things.
Yes.
Idea I had for combating it is to start reporting it as an illegal campaign contribution, like to a party that would be benefiting from it, or some particular election side that would be benefiting from it, because, like you said, it is political. So
yes,
what would the one who's benefiting from it have to pay to put somebody out there to combat it? And so since if they're not paying somehow, then they're making a contribution to that side of things.
That's an interesting point, and obviously the place to start with that would be the Federal Elections Commission. But so far, like so many of our other government agencies, they've been rather lax about actually enforcing the rules. We certainly saw that again back in 2016.
Well, yeah, that could be, but at least you can put it on them and then complain about their inactivity. But,
yeah,
if they're out
we
there,
are
nothing
complaining.
to me, it's
You
like,
know,
nobody told us anything.
We're raising a fuss about it.
So just, start getting things on record and probably do letters into them so they have a piece of paper to deal with.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Thanks an awful lot for the phone call. We're going to switch over to Edward in Las Vegas. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. Do you follow H.A. Goodman or Lee Stranahan at all?
No.
Oh, shoot. They would be great on the show. They uncover a lot of amazing stuff. But, okay, let me move on. Okay, as far as censorship goes, what really happened? Do you use, like, BitChute or anything in case they do try to shut it down?
I'm presently looking at alternatives so that I can get my video streaming back out there if YouTube shuts it down. As far as Twitter and Facebook are concerned, I could care less because I stopped using them months and months ago. So they could shut off my account. It's going to have zero effect on my operation here. Most of my traffic brought to whatreallyhappened.com is coming word of mouth and emails from people just saying, hey, you got to look at this.
Right. And then have you noticed, like, okay, you know how the excuse is always like, well, just go build your own Twitter or just go build your own YouTube. And then what ultimately happens is that as soon as they maybe criticize Israel a little too much, you notice it just always happens to they lose their merchant processor. You notice that? Like MasterCard stops taking payments, or Gab, or BitChute, and they keep losing their processors.
Yeah,
So it's like
that's very
control
alarming.
your
Now that
phone.
we have credit card companies that are getting into this idea of censoring public speech as well. And that is, in fact, very alarming. We know that PayPal has shut off several accounts now for violating community standards. They did it to us once, many, many years ago, and they turned us back on when we blew the whistle that PayPal was the preferred payment service for porn sites, including one that was a child porn site. Now, they've spun that business off into a separate company, but you know, it was a little hypocritical of them. But it is very alarming to see companies that are supposed to be engaged in things like, you know, payment processing, credit cards, all of a sudden they're using their position and their power to say, we're going to decide what you can talk about and what you can't.
Well, yeah, not only that, but I mean, you know, so ultimately they have the final say because they just have that financial bottleneck, and unless, you know, the very few people use Bitcoin, but unless everyone goes crypto, they always have that final kill switch. Now with Alex Jones, I mean, what was the trigger that got him banned? He doesn't talk about. He'll talk about I don't know, China. It was China's trying to shut him down. It's like there's not a lot of Zionist Chinese out there, but what did he say that got him banned? I mean,
I actually, to be honest, do not know. I don't really watch a lot of Prison Planet or InfoWars, and in all the reporting about his deplatforming, they aren't specific. They simply say he violated the community standards, which is kind of a boilerplate response. I know that sometimes Alex can get a little bit out there and extreme, but again, as a supporter of the First Amendment, I may not agree with what Alex Jones is saying, but I'm going to defend his right to say it, as I would defend anybody's right to their opinion, as long as it is expressed peacefully, civilly, and respectfully. I don't think that Antifa grabbing a pipe and pounding on somebody is protected by that First Amendment.
Right. And who ultimately do you think is pulling the strings here? Is it the deep state is saying, like, hey, MasterCard, if you don't do this, we're going to audit you for the next, you know, going 5 years back or something? Or do you think it's like the certain people in the banking industry that, you know, are doing that? Or are they controlling the deep state ultimately? Like, who is running this?
Well, given the rapidity and the widespread attack that happened, it looks like there was some backroom discussions among various players, including corporations and the government itself and the financial players, and said, we've got to get rid of that independent media. We've got to get rid of the open internet because people are starting to wake up and realize how they're being abused. And so I think it really was kind of a consensus opinion within all this various groups, and they just decided to launch, and they wanted to make an example of Alex Jones. I have noticed, however, in the last few days that the deplatforming seems to be sort of slowing down, and it may be that the people who wanted to ban Alex Jones weren't expecting the public outcry that happened. And as you know, we had callers into the show that were trying to basically smear Alex Jones and make him seem unsympathetic on the idea that, oh, well, you know, we don't like Alex Jones, so it's okay if he gets deplatformed. And I don't think the people behind this were expecting that the reaction was, you know, I don't like Alex Jones, but First Amendment has to prevail here. And at some point, I think there probably is going to be a lawsuit on this that may have to go all the way to the Supreme Court. But the First Amendment, that right to freedom of speech, that right to peacefully assemble, to discuss what's going on, and petition the government for redress of grievances, that's an absolute right acknowledged by the First Amendment. It's not granted by the government, it's recognized by the government. The government doesn't give us any rights. It merely acknowledges the ones we are born with. Anyway, we've got to let you go now. We've got to take a break for commercials, and we'll be back with more phone calls after these few words.
Many people tell us about their experience with Extendivite. Just listen to what Glenn has to say.
Prior to taking it, I had diabetic neuropathy. The Extendivite reduced that significantly. Acid reflux was reduced. I had athlete's foot, very severe. Trimmed that down to about 75% dandruff, almost completely gone. I had occipital neuralgia at the base of my skull. I was having migraines, reduced by about 90%. Heart palpitations, my heart would kind of stall out. I would skip a beat. Very uncomfortable. And when walking from downstairs going to sleep, by the time I got to the bedroom, which is just one flight of stairs, my heart was pounding, coming out of my chest. My vision was blurry. This completely solved that problem. Great product. Thanks.
Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. And boy, do we have a lot of callers today here. And we're going to start with Dave in Delaware, which you did call earlier, but you had something else you wanted to add.
Yeah, I wanted to add, why did you cut me off? I thought you were going to hold me over to the break.
I'm sorry. I had so many callers. I really wanted to get to the rest of them. But go ahead and just say what you wanted to say.
Okay. What do you think about the ADL, though? Like, who runs it?
Well, the Anti-Defamation League, has been around for a very long time, and their stated goal is to prevent anybody from saying anything bad about any Jewish people, regardless of what they do.
Yeah, I mean, but it's like an anti-bullying campaign. Did you see how Melania Trump was out there on the internet today? Like her whole hate speech and, anti-bullying campaign?
Okay, anti-what campaign now? I'm not familiar with the phrase.
Melania Trump, she was out like her whole cyber bullying campaign.
Oh,
like that's what
bullying.
she was out
Okay,
there promoting.
yeah. Well, I
You don't think that has anything to do with like censorship or anything? That like Trump's the one that's like shutting all this stuff down?
No, I don't think Trump is shutting it down. I wish he would take a little more interest in what's going on here, because it was the independent media that really made the.
What do you mean? How is he? How is Trump going to take more interest? Like you wish that Trump would take more interest in this stuff. I mean, was he Hannity? He's like he's going to talk to. Is he Alex Jones? He's going to talk to him every night. Like,
well, here the anti-bullying part. As you know, there's already a bill being proposed in Congress that would mandate government control of the internet. And they would regulate it, basically saying that anybody who's putting content onto the web would require a government license. Like you today with radio and TV, you have to have an FCC license. And obviously, simply by withholding those licenses from conservative groups, they could turn the entire internet into a liberal propaganda machine.
yeah, but during the elections, Trump always talked about how he was going to shut down the internet because of like ISIS infiltrations and shit. He was going to like, excuse my language, he was going to censor everything because of ISIS. Like, so during Trump now, everything's getting shut down, right? And then, like, supposedly it's, you know, some big right, like, leftist conspiracy and all this stuff. Trump talked about it during the elections. He said he was going to shut down the internet.
I mean, use your common sense. Dave, use your common sense. If Trump were behind this, it would be the liberal people who are being deplatformed. And that's simply not happening. This is clearly biased against conservatives, against the GOP, against Republicans. And
no, you're buying into the left-right false paradigm.
No,
you're picking sides and all that stuff.
Dave, you're coming in here trying to push a specific idea, but you're not listening to reason. And that is that the available facts, the available facts do not support your premise, which is that Trump is somehow behind this. Because if Trump were behind it, we would see liberal independent media being shut down, and they're not. They're absolutely not. Trump, you know, if Trump shuts this down, if Trump, Dave, let me take a comment here. If Trump allows the independent media, especially the conservative independent media, to be shut down, then he's a one-term president. He's cutting his own throat, and he's not going to do that. He's too egotistical for that. So, as I said, the available facts do not support your thesis.
You're going to vote for Trump again? The SPLC and the ADL are not run by the Chi-Coms, like Alex Jones says. I'm just saying, you think that Trump is like some mega, like, he's going to change all this stuff? What's he doing? He's not doing anything.
I agree.
Where's
He's a
Hillary at?
disappointment.
Is he in prison?
I agree he's a disappointment. And in 2020, the only way I'll support Donald Trump is if Hillary runs again. And if the Democrats come up with a decent candidate, and I'm pushing for Tulsi Gabbard. I don't agree with her on the Second Amendment.
Tulsi Gabbard is anti-Second Amendment.
I just said that. Okay? I don't agree with her on the Second.
I watch your show. I listen to you all the time. I'm telling you, Mike, that all this censorship came into power under Trump. So
this is not Trump doing this. It doesn't line up. If Trump were behind this, it would be the liberal. It would be the liberal independent. Okay, Dave. Okay, we're going to let you go here because you don't want to have a discussion. You're here to push an idea. But as I said, the available facts do not line up with this thesis. If Trump were behind this attempt to shut down the independent media, and I can't imagine why he would do that. Shutting down ISIS, yes, but the independent media isn't ISIS. I'm not ISIS. I'm not a terrorist. I'm annoying, obnoxious, and overbearing, but I'm not a terrorist. But the independent media is the reason he's sitting in that Oval Office, and he has to know that. If Trump were actually the author of this attack on the independent media, it would be on the liberal independent media. You got to start with the available facts and work forward from there. All right, we're going to take a break for commercials. We've got more callers waiting on the line, and we will be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, keep it today.
Do you or a loved one suffer migraine headaches? Listen to what scientist Kurt Hendricks has to say.
35 million people in the United States suffer with debilitating migraines. If you or a loved one are one of them, you need to know about MigraLief. Hi, I'm Kurt Hendricks, the scientist that formulated and patented the MigraLief migraine formula. MigraLief is a non-prescription dietary supplement recommended by neurologists, pharmacists, and pediatricians to address nutritional deficiencies in both adults and children over 2 with migraines. Try MigraLief for 3 months and see the powerful difference it can make in your life, or get your money back, no questions asked. Go to MIG911.com or call 800-MIG-7354. You can change your life today.
So if you suffer from migraines, don't wait. Call 800-MIG-7354. That's 800-MIG-7354, or visit MIG911.com.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AirOutfitting.com.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Join Mike on the air. Call toll-free 800-313-9443. 800-313-9443.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. And before we go back to the phone lines here, one of our members just posted this article over at whatreallyhappened.com. Apparently, somebody has leaked a memo. It's a 49-page memo, and it was basically presented in January 2017 by Media Matters founder David Brock at a retreat in Florida with about 100 donors. Now, Media Matters is funded largely by George Soros. And basically, the memo spells out this agenda of working with Google and Facebook to eliminate conservative points of view from the independent media as part of a larger plan to take power back from the Trump administration. So there's where this is all coming from. All right, let's get back to the phones here to Francis in North Carolina. Aloha, Francis. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, aloha to you both.
Aloha.
Hey,
as just a quick political thought for you, dare I even touch this with a 10-foot pole or whatever you want to call it. He is a businessman, and they know, and the so-called people in charge or whatever have you, terminology ad nauseum, know that his head is dealing with business and so forth, and the art of the deal and so forth. So they know how to manipulate him one way or the other, even though he may not think he's being manipulated, or even contemplated for that matter. But enough said about that deal. I'll let your imagination go with that one. Now, as far as the metals are concerned, as far as coinage is concerned, which is what I originally was calling about, not just your noble metals such as silver and gold do well as far as a bartering item is concerned, as far as currency goes, as far as coinage is related to that. But people really should keep in mind that non-noble metals also have a value too, i.e. Brass, copper, and nickel.
Mm-hmm.
Zinc is not a great big deal. I mean, it's almost considered almost junk metal, but still it has its own properties for that matter. But even with that, if someone has copper wire or brass wire and being bartered for something else of similar or greater value or whatever, someone can use that wire for a multitude of purposes that are helpful around the house, farm, whatever have you. So just saying that silver and gold are the only valuable metals is kind of short-sighted.
That's not what we were saying. That's not what we were saying. What we were talking about is that the junk silver is a recognized uniform unit of exchange. Now, obviously, if two people have something that the other one wants, they can do a direct barter. And I would add to your list of metals to keep on hand a supply of iron, because there's always going to be a need for raw material with which to build things or make repairs. And so actually having some iron on hand or steel is probably going to be a good idea. The question is, where do you store it all?
Well, for one thing, most people, when they see such a metal, well, it depends on what the person's abode is like, whether they live in an apartment or a house out in the country or whatever, or in the suburban area.
Yes,
they have
obviously.
to contend with various guidelines about, as far as their housing goes, what's allowed, what's not allowed,
Yes.
as far as living codes are concerned.
Well, we're in a
They have
very
to do-
small place, and that's made our prepping, especially difficult. We only have a little tiny
Yes.
piece of land out back, and we're actually forbidden to have food plants out there. I'm sneaking. There are
That's
some
true.
sort of interspersed with all the decorative plants, but
Well,
it's an issue. In fact, Claire and I have been discussing we might actually have to get a storage locker someplace that we could get to in the event of a power failure to have some of our survival supplies in. But we haven't moved forward on that idea.
As far as you're mentioning about how to store something like iron or steel or whatever have you, depending on what form or what shape it's in or length thereof, if it's like a whatever it might be, they can be used as creating a shelving fixture until the needed purpose of it being otherwise dictated. So it can actually be used for doing additional storage, for that matter, depending on how you maneuver it. But
Well, there's all kinds of creative
ways-
ways of handling this problem.
Thank you. That's where I was heading to. It depends on how creative the person is and how they want to maneuver that. Because, I mean, you can take a stack of boxes or depending on what size they are and that's used for moving or whatever, and turn it into a blooming table. Take a sheet, no problem. You got it made, or a tablecloth, until you get a regular table set in place. So you can still store stuff in it. So anyway, enough out of me. Later.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go and switch over to Mark in North Carolina. Aloha, Mark. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, how you doing, Mike? Mike, I just wanted to let you know, and also the audience, I talked to Wolfgang Albig again today.
Good.
He's got big coming up. By the way, what made me decide to call him is I was driving late again last night, and I was listening to Coast to Coast, and Alex Jones was on with Nori, and he was, flip-flopping all over the place about Sandy Hoax, and Nori was talking like he's all, high and mighty about, how dare they talk about, those parents, so-called parents, and by the way, the guy he fired, the guy he stabbed in the back really and fired, John B. Wells, is one of Wolfgang's biggest supporters. I'm talking monetary, and he's and anyway. But what Wolfgang told me, and I heard this before because he had put it on Facebook also.
Yeah.
I didn't quite understand exactly what he did. He has not got the nuclear bomb. He's got the nuclear bomb for this whole thing. What he's got is the food that was ordered. There was nothing that went to that school. He said he tracked it from September right to December 14th when it supposedly happened.
Yes.
And nothing. He's got records. He's got written records, and he's got tapes talking to some of these people there. So anybody tries any other shenanigans, and once he drops that bomb, that's it. Ball game is over. He said, forget it. You don't even have to go through all the other stuff about what the police procedures, how crazy it was, who Adam Lanza is, whether he even existed, or whatever else he had. He's got this thing. He says that's it. He drops that, it's over. Now he's trying to get it into federal court right now. I think hopefully he will be able to get into federal court rather than the state of Connecticut. Now, as far as Alex Jones goes, he's not even, his lawyers aren't even communicating with him. That's a big mistake. Jones is running away from this. I don't think it's because he's controlled opposition. I think that's kind of silly. I think what it is, he's scared. He's under so much attack that he will now abandon the very people that really made him famous. I remember I got to know who Wolfgang Halbig is at first, listening to Alex Jones. And Halbig made it clear. The first 10 days, he thought this thing was legitimate. He even sent money to them. He thought this really happened, and he just made some mistakes. And he wrote to them about, whether he could help, because he's one of the top school safety experts in the country. He actually, believe it or not, I think, he was in your show already. He actually set up the security system at that school that got hit here in Broward County.
Yes.
In Florida.
Yes.
I mean, he's heavy duty. He's not just some, Johnny come lately. People talk, well, he was a peace officer for 2 or 3 years. That was his start of his career. He's been an educator most of that time, an educator, including a school administrator, a principal.
Yes.
And at the same time, he got the school safety aspect. The man is dogged. He's determined. The man is a hero. He's an American hero. And by the way, he puts his phone number out. I'm not going to put it on. He probably wouldn't mind if I put it out. He said I could even put it on Facebook if I want. He puts his number out, his own personal number, and people call him. People are surprised when they call and they actually talking to him. He's not a rich guy. He doesn't have a big studio. He doesn't have nothing. Okay, he's retired. He's a retired school teacher, basically. He's not even able to make it. He used to make extra money doing the school safety. Obviously, nobody's consulting him anymore for that. And the guy but the guy's a hero.
Yes.
And he's doing it on, honestly, he's doing it on. I've contributed some money. I'm going to start contributing some more money to him because this guy is a hero and he needs our support. He needs everybody's support. I think it's a damn shame that Alex Jones, InfoWars, are cutting him off. As a matter of fact, Jones should be helping support him, just like John B. Wells.
Well, Alex Jones has been sued for defamation, and his best defense is Wolfgang Halbig and what Wolfgang knows. Exactly. So I can't understand why Alex Jones would cut him off. That's a very imprudent move to make unless some kind of a deal has been in the offering.
Yeah, I don't understand it either. I mean, he's got, if this trial ends the way I think it will end, and I don't see how they can get out of it, once he brings that evidence in about the food, and he said he's asking for a jury, too. He wants to make sure he's got a jury.
They do have a jury.
Once it comes in. Huh?
They do have a jury.
Yeah, that's right, and that's of course good because and once that comes in, the school was not a functioning school.
Yeah,
it was a drill that they made to look like it actually happened. The kids were not; those kids were mostly grown already, or much older. They weren't, they weren't victims of the attack or anything. And most of these people were actors, like Leonard Posner. By the way, Leonard Posner didn't show up for one trial with Wolfgang. He sued Wolfgang and didn't show up for the trial. Of course he didn't show up for the trial.
Well, they made a request under discovery for documentation proving that he'd been a resident of the community at the time the shooting happened, and Posner couldn't come up with that. Anyway, listen, Mark, we have gone over this many, many times, and I agree with you about Wolfgang Halbig, and obviously issues like Sandy Hook or the Boston Marathon bombing are one of the reasons they want the independent media to go away, because every time they do one of these false flags, we rip it apart in shreds. Because of the independent media, you can clock the life expectancy of a government lie with an egg timer these days. Anyway, but I've got other callers to get to. I'm going to let you go. Thank you very much for the phone call and the update. And we're going to switch
one thing,
real quick. Make it quick. Make it quick.
Could you invite Wolfgang back on?
Yeah, I'll get him back on the show.
Great. Awesome. All right, Mike, take it easy.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch over to Jim in Chicago. Jim, welcome to the show. Thank you for waiting so patiently, and what's on your mind?
No problem, Michael. Less than an hour ago, Michael Cohen, Donald Trump's former attorney, told a federal judge that he and Donald Trump both knew that it was illegal to use campaign funds to pay off Stormy Daniels and the other young lady. So this tells me that Michael Cohen has a lot more to say, and Donald Trump, his days might be numbered.
Well, obviously, Michael Cohen was looking at a huge amount of prison time, and when they started talking about a plea deal is when I started saying, okay, Michael Cohen has been convinced to come up with something that they can use against Donald Trump to save Robert Mueller's face for having come up with absolutely nothing after 18 months and all these millions of dollars. And frankly, I wouldn't believe Michael Cohen. If he told me it was going to be a sunny day, I'd take an umbrella out there.
Well, the thing is, Michael, they have recordings of this.
They have recordings of what?
Of the conversation between Michael Cohen and Donald Trump talking about paying off these two young ladies.
Well, why
did hear the recording?
Why did they have to use campaign funds? It's not like Trump needed the money. He's got his own money, and if they knew it was illegal, it doesn't make sense they would have done that. Trump needed all of his campaign money for his campaign. So, frankly, the story is suspect. I'm sorry, the story is suspect.
Well, again, that's your opinion, but the fact is, you're right about that. Why would they have to use campaign money to pay off these young ladies? Why couldn't Donald Trump give these ladies a check out of his own pocket or even cash? But Michael Cohen said on a tape, where you can't give them cash, we got to use campaign funds, and Donald Trump went along with it.
Well, then,
and that's on the tape.
Now, I haven't heard the tape. But if Michael Cohen is the one who made the suggestion, then he's the one who's liable. So,
well, you're right about that, considering that's Donald Trump's lawyer. But Donald Trump should have either gone to another person and got a second opinion.
You're right. He should.
I'm very suspicious. Yeah. So unless they felt like, well, we can get away with it, no big thing. And a lot of times people think that way. But the fact that Michael Cohen ratted out Donald Trump, that tells me he's going to be telling a lot more other things.
Yeah, and they're probably going to be basically whatever Robert Mueller comes up with. And, Trump is definitely in trouble here. But
right, I would agree with you.
This is just too cute and too convenient for Robert Mueller. They had Michael Cohen by the short and curlies, and they made him a deal. We're going to put you in prison for the rest of your life unless you work with us to get Donald Trump. And that appears to be what's happened. But like I said, I wouldn't believe a word coming out of Cohen's mouth at this point.
But again, this is the one thing I really don't understand. Why would you even pay off these ladies to begin with?
Well, I agree. I agree with that. But somebody obviously felt that was the best course, especially during the campaign. Again, if Cohen was the one who suggested using campaign funds, then he's the one who's in violation of the law. And you're right, Trump should have gotten a second opinion. But it doesn't, why did Cohen do that? This story does not pass the smell test, to be very, very honest. It's
Michael,
just
do you remember?
winky.
Michael, do you remember? You made a very good point a while back. You said, "Isn't this like blackmail where the women were blackmailing Donald Trump? Why didn't he go to the authorities?"
Because he wanted to keep it out of the media at a time when the media was trying to basically support Hillary Clinton in her rush for the White House here. But if Michael Cohen is the one who suggested using campaign funds, then he's the one who's in trouble for that. But again, it just doesn't make sense that he would suggest
and he did
that.
plead guilty to that.
Okay, well, I know he pled guilty to that. He's the guilty party. Anyway, we got to let you go, Jim. Got to take another break for commercials, and we will be right back.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read a few from Amazon.com. Dr. Sam Serino reviewed the Extendivite product. Good ingredients, feeling much better since taking product. It seems that the tablets work well. Once again, thank you for your product. My acid reflux has really improved thanks to the Extendivite. Together with my thumb joints, the pain is gone and I'm able to grip things much better. My friend has peripheral arterial disorder and their lower legs were hurting in a red color, but thankfully, there has been a significant improvement. Kind regards, Janice. My husband feels a big difference using Extendivite. Thank you. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened. What's really
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. And finally, we're going to get back to some of the news here. This is an interesting story. There is this investigative journalist named Jenny Moore. She was found dead in a suburban Washington, D.C. hotel room a little more than a week ago. And all they're saying is she died of an apparent seizure. The death was not the result of suicide. And apparently her body was found by employees at the Country Inn and Suites by Radisson, Washington, D.C. East in Capitol Heights, Maryland. They're investigating. So far, an autopsy has not been scheduled. Now, Jenny Moore was an advocate who investigated abused and trafficked children and was in the process of investigating allegations by a 26-year-old man that, as a young boy, he was sexually assaulted by Bill Clinton and pimped out at private sex parties attended by other D.C. elites. And the time frame seems to work back to the days of the Franklin scandal. So we have another entry on the dead bodies list here. Judicial Watch is suing the Defense Department on behalf of a whistleblower who lost their security clearance after raising questions about prominent Trump Spygate figure. Now, this is about White House National Security Council Senior Director Adam Lovinger. His security clearance was pulled after he voiced concerns regarding lucrative government contracts awarded to Stephen Halper, who's been identified as being used as an informant by the Obama administration against Trump's campaign, as well as the Long-Term Strategy Group, a consulting firm owned by Chelsea Clinton's friend, Jacqueline Newmeyer, who got all kinds of access to the Hillary Clinton State Department when Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State. So, boy, oh boy, the corruption just goes on forever here. The trial of those accused for 9/11 is still going on. It's been a very long time, obviously. And the judge is forbidding the use of FBI interrogations at Guantanamo. And this appears to be related to the concern that a lot of those interrogations were conducted under torture, which we know they were. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed was waterboarded over 100 times before he confessed to being the mastermind of 9/11. They even tortured his kids, made him listen. So the judge is out there saying, yeah, let's pull back and see what actual real evidence there is, because this is, after all, a death penalty case. If the accused are convicted, they're facing execution. All right, we're going to take a break here for station identification. We will be right back.
Extendivite is more than just a heart tonic. Most basic diseases are caused by yeast in the gut and metals in the liver, and we all have a bit of both. The garlic in Extendivite has a yeast-killing effect in the gut while also helping the sulfur enzyme in the liver get rid of the metals. Extendivite just may improve your overall health. Products like Extendivite are the only way we are going to get our society healthy. And if you're waiting for the government and pharmaceutical care to solve your health problems, you're going to have a long, disappointing wait, I think. Extendivite is a complete formula for extended life in the new millennium. 80 can be the new 60. Extendivite is available in capsule or liquid form for just $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To get started, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network because you can handle the truth.
And okay, it looks like we didn't get our intro music for this, but welcome back to the show. Hour number 3. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Now, interestingly enough, the mother of Julian Assange over on Twitter was responding to a question: why did Julian publish damning documents against Hillary at such a crucial time, which gave Humpty Dumpty Trump the upper hand? And Christine Assange replied, "It is the duty of media to inform citizens about corruption," adding a DNC Bernie supporter disgruntled with rigging leaked documents proving corruption. Of course, Twitter erupted in a firestorm, and Christine has since taken the tweet down. But the obvious implication is, again, the WikiLeaks document dump of the DNC emails was not a hack. It was an internal leak. Okay, there we are. So, now, interestingly enough, there's been yet another confirmation. This is a story coming on out of the Daily Mail, where Craig Murray, the former British ambassador to Uzbekistan and a close associate of Julian Assange, told Daily Mail that he flew to Washington, D.C. for a clandestine handoff with one of the email sources. And he said neither of the leaks came from the Russians. The source had legal access to the information. The documents came from inside leaks, not hacks. Now, remember yesterday we reported... okay, you're not getting audio? Okay. All right, let's try reconnecting then. All right. Sorry about all this technical stuff, but apparently RBN has lost my audio signal. And... oh my goodness, all these wonderful things. All right. Let's see if we can get this. All right. So we're back here. Okay, can you hear me? Okay, we're good to go. All right, so we're back up here. I'm going to back up here a little bit because these stories that I was talking about are important. And I know the people on YouTube have already heard these things, but it's important for the RBN audience to hear this. Apparently, Julian Assange's mother, Christine, was in a Twitter debate, and she was dealing with some people who were very critical of WikiLeaks putting out the DNC emails because they harmed Hillary Clinton and they helped Donald Trump. And the issue of right or wrong doesn't come into that discussion. It's, how could you do this? How could you harm, our Empress Hillary and everything like that? And Christine came on back with a tweet which is worthy of being quoted. It's the duty of media to inform citizens about corruption. And then she added, a DNC Bernie supporter disgruntled with rigging leaked documents proving corruption. So the implication here is, again, first of all, the DNC emails published by WikiLeaks were not a hack by the Russians or anybody else. It was an internal leak. And that's followed up by a story that came on out from the Daily Mail in Great Britain, where Craig Murray, the former British ambassador to Uzbekistan and a close associate of Julian Assange, told Daily Mail that he flew to Washington, D.C. for a clandestine handoff with one of the email sources. And Craig Murray said neither of the leaks came from the Russians. The source had legal access to the information. The documents came from inside leaks, not hacks. So this whole Russian hacking story is nonsense, as we've known it all along. And it looks to me like this is confirmation. Seth Rich was a Bernie Sanders supporter. And he was basically had access to all those computers. And he was privy to what was going on with the Democratic National Committee rigging the primaries for Hillary Clinton. And he got fed up and he got disgusted. And so he basically copied all those emails onto a flash drive and just walked it out of the building, for which apparently he was killed. Now, don't forget, yesterday we ran this story where apparently Donna Brazil and the mayor of Washington, D.C. arrived at the hospital just moments after Seth Rich did, where the EMTs brought him in for emergency treatment for these 2 gunshot wounds he suffered. Apparently, he was still alive when he reached the hospital. Over at Judicial Watch, they have announced they've received 87 pages of records from the Department of Justice revealing former top FBI official Peter Strzok and FBI attorney Lisa Page just had utter disdain for FBI hierarchy and policies. The text messages include a huge amount of profanity. And the Department of Justice, meanwhile, is resisting Judicial Watch's request for a court order to preserve all responsive Page-Strzok communications. The cover-up and the stonewalling continues. Now, Strzok and Page's text messages became center stage amid allegations of bias at the Bureau, and both have now been subpoenaed to testify before the House Judiciary and the Oversight and Government Reform Committees. So they're going to be looking at that. We're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining the network. Alrighty. And here's a good one. I like this. CNN, the Cruddy News Network. We've been talking about its ratings. It's below SpongeBob SquarePants. It's below Ancient Aliens. And now it's dropped below Pawn Stars. They're in serious, serious trouble. And that's one of the reasons why they are so angry with the independent media. Because the audience is coming over here. Because people want to know the truth. They don't want to be lied to anymore. Corporate media got very, very comfortable with their fancy studios and all their equipment in their dressing rooms and everything, but that's a high overhead to maintain. And right now they're losing money like crazy to the point where their financial backers are getting nervous. Independent media is intentionally small, just little tiny operations out of garages or spare bedrooms. We don't have that overhead problem. We do have overhead. But it's for the essentials, new mixers, new keyboards, new computers. Anyway. All right, let's talk about the economic news here a little bit. The British Foreign Secretary is about to urge the European Union to expand sanctions against Russia. Jeremy Hunt was speaking Tuesday at the U.S. Institute of Peace in Washington, D.C., saying he will urge the EU to expand sanctions against Russia over the Salisbury incident, which nobody can prove Russia had anything to do with, but a good excuse is a good excuse is a good excuse. Now, here's where this is not going to work on out. The last time they sanctioned Russia was during that ill-conceived oil price war. And it backfired. It caused a lot more damage all across Europe than it did inside Russia. And it's probably going to happen again because apparently something that the EU Foreign Secretary is seeming to forget is right now Europe and Great Britain are dependent on Russian natural gas. And analysts are saying that the Russian gas cannot be substituted. There are no other pipelines yet, and the U.S. liquefied natural gas fleet is not sufficient to supply all of Europe and Great Britain if there's a sanctions war here. So they're raising on a busted flush on that one here. Now, Trump, on the other hand, is saying he's not considering lifting sanctions unless Russia does something good for the United States. I don't know. I thought vodka was a nice gesture here. But the first sanctions were imposed on March 6, 2014, 10 days before the Crimea referendum. And that was back when Obama was in the White House, and he said it undermines democratic processes and institutions in Ukraine. Well, actually, it was the United States that undermined democratic processes and institutions in Ukraine with that coup d'etat that drove Yanukovych from power and installed President Chocolate, Poroshenko, in his place. Now, the people of Crimea democratically held a referendum, as is their right, and said, we don't want to be part of Ukraine anymore because the government in Kiev doesn't really represent us. Then they held a second referendum saying, we want to merge with the Russian republics. That's democracy in action. Now, I don't know what Trump is really thinking about Russia doing something good for the U.S., but the implication within this article seems to be that Trump is saying the sanctions will continue until Russia gives Crimea back. And I'll tell you right now, that's a non-starter. The people of Crimea aren't going to go along with it. The people of Russia aren't going to go along with it. Putin can't afford to lose that much face. He's got his own hardliners to deal with. So that is simply not going to happen. Now, question that was being asked over at Sputnik News, what will happen if the Gulf states move away from the dollar? And my response is this a trick question? Right now, the only thing that is still powering the U.S. economy internationally is that petrodollar deal. But that's coming apart. Russia, Turkey, China, and Iran are fleeing the dollar and promoting bilateral trade in their own domestic currencies, which gives them two advantages. For one, they're not paying interest on those U.S. dollars. And two, if they're not going through the U.S. dollar, the sanctions have no effect. And a lot of analysts are saying that a lot of the Gulf states may do exactly the same thing because they're seeing the pattern. Sanctions followed by war, sanctions followed by war, sanctions followed by war. And they may decide it's time to get out of the petrodollar deal for the simple reason that the United States can no longer hold up their end of the deal. See, after Richard Nixon ended gold convertibility, which technically brought an end to Bretton Woods, they tried to back the U.S. dollar with oil, other people's oil, but still oil. And the petrodollar deal was very simple, that the oil-producing nations of the Middle East would sell their oil only for the U.S. dollar, and they would invest that money in the United States of America, or some of that money in the United States of America, and in exchange, the United States would guarantee their military safety. But ever since 9/11, Middle Eastern nations are seeing Israel, newly resurgent, as an aggressive military power. And they're seeing the United States as being absolutely incapable of controlling Israel's aggressions. And so for them, the petrodollar deal is pretty much dead. It's all downside, no upside. We might see the majority of the world's nations drop the dollar all at once, and the party would definitely be over at that point. Now, according to the Institute of Economic Research, Germany will have the biggest account surplus in the world for the third successive year this year. In other words, they've got a trade surplus. Why? Because the Germans make things. They build things that other countries want, and they sell a lot of them. They have a lot of exports. And you need to remember that that was what fueled the bankers and government's anger with Germany in big mistake number one and big mistake number two. The fact that Germany, when they get down to it, is a manufacturing powerhouse, and they produce products people want to buy, products that other countries can't compete with. So this is another warning sign. And apparently the country with the largest trade deficit this year will be the United States of America, because we don't manufacture anything anybody really wants, and nobody wants our GMO agriculture. So we're in bad, bad, bad shape. Over at Tesla, because of recent developments, including an SEC investigation, suppliers and creditors are starting to get very, very nervous. Investors of the company are wondering if they're going to lose their money. Companies that are supplying parts to Tesla are worried they may not get paid for the parts they're shipping on in. And if they basically said, we're not going to send any more parts until accounts are cleared up, that's the end of the party. Tesla can't build those cars, or Elon Musk can't build those cars without the parts to go in them. And I'm sorry to see it happen, and I understand Tesla's meltdown on TV the other day. It's got to be very, very hard. He obviously is very emotionally connected to his various companies, but I think he spread himself too thin. And he should have just focused on that one endeavor that made him happy, whether it was the Tesla electric car or SpaceX or whatever. But I think he spread himself way, way too thin here. Meanwhile, last month, Russia bought 800,000 ounces of gold. All the gold is moving out of the U.S., out of Europe, to Russia and to China. We talked yesterday about how more and more countries are demanding the repatriation of their gold from the U.S. Federal Reserve System. Because when the paper currencies fail, when the fiat currencies fail, you've got to have a currency that's based on a commodity universally recognized and universally valued. That can be gold, can be silver, could even be ultimately electricity. Somebody actually made up a coin for the electro. Getting into immigration and refugees, over in Finland, their immigration service cannot positively identify 40% of the migrants applying for asylum. And IDs and passports are almost exclusively used by Western migrants entering Finland, and not from their Middle Eastern or African counterparts. And basically they're saying some of these migrants are showing up without any documentation because they're coming from countries that don't even have a passport system. Now, we've been talking about these 177 migrants that have sort of been bouncing around the Mediterranean, kind of like a pinball machine, for those of you old enough to remember pinball machines. And Italy has finally allowed these migrants to land in Sicily. And local media is saying it'll take some negotiations before they're allowed to actually disembark, but at least the ship is tied to a dock and they're not out at sea any longer. But again, it's just this huge, huge, huge problem. As you know, there was this terror attack in Westminster, and people are talking about the fact that this guy was a refugee. And once again, we're seeing these screeds out here saying that, you know, you're racist if you even bother to mention that this person is a migrant or a Muslim. You're just being racist. No, we're not. We're standing here in the middle of a car wreck and a bunch of dead bodies and wondering what the heck is going on. Now, up in Sweden, I guess they've reached their breaking point because the leading candidate for prime minister, they're coming up on their elections next month, is vowing migration reforms. Nationalism is surging. And the anti-immigration right-wing Sweden Democrats Party is way ahead in the polls. All right, we're going to take a break for commercials. We'll be right back.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you a few from Amazon.com. By Mel. Great product. My husband and father-in-law use it regularly. Both my husband and father-in-law have had significant change in their blood pressure and overall health. By Amazon customer. It works for me. Returned to buy the tincture and the capsules as they were on sale during February. Unlike some other products, this one worked for blood pressure and occasional irregular heartbeat. Extendivite produced noticeable results after just 2 bottles, a 4-month supply. I take Extendivite 3 times a day, every day. I think the supplement has helped with my increased fitness regime and to lower my blood pressure. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. Now, down in South America, Brazil has been forced to deploy troops to their shared border with Venezuela, apparently because of the economic hardships and disaster in Venezuela. Venezuelans are trying to get out of the country. They're literally walking out of the country into neighboring countries looking for better living conditions. And basically, Brazil's president, Temer, is saying it's a state of an emergency. And they're deploying troops because it's utter chaos, and they're saying it could literally turn into a war here. Okay, over in Great Britain, the Remainers are still out there trying to figure out some way they can subvert the will of the British people. And apparently, Barry Gardner, basically, he's a Labour frontbencher, said, no, there's not going to be a new vote. Now, he backed Remain in the 2016 referendum, but he insisted the country had to respect the people's vote to leave the EU to protect British democracy. And he said, those people who now want a second referendum are saying, because you voted in the wrong way, we'll give you another chance to get it right. That undermines the whole principle of democracy in this country. Now, another reason that he may be saying we're not going to have another referendum is the latest polls are showing that a lot of people who voted Remain in 2016 would now vote for Brexit. So a second referendum would actually be a worse result for them. But they're still trying to figure out some way that they can keep Great Britain tied to the European Union somehow. A Brexit in name only. As you probably heard earlier today, they finally found the body of Molly Tibbetts, and she was, as we expected, found dead. She was found in a field near where she lived, 20-year-old college student, and basically the police have arrested an illegal immigrant for the murder. So how's that open borders thing working on out for you there, huh? Story coming on out from Blacklisted News about a study published by Jonathan Mumolo, assistant professor of politics and public affairs at Princeton, reveals that law enforcement is hiding important facts about its militarization. And a lot of people have called into the show or written into the show expressing their concern about how the domestic police force is looking more and more like an army of occupation. And this study from Princeton is saying that this militarization fails to enhance police safety or reduce crime, and may harm police reputation, which, yeah, with all these shootings and taserings, it definitely does. And Mumolo also basically said that these militarized police units are more often deployed in what he politely terms communities of color. Okay. All righty. Over in Louisiana, their attorney general is now blocking banks from closing a $600 million deal due to their gun control views. Louisiana Attorney General Jeff Landry is basically blocking Bank of America and Citibank from underwriting a $600 million state deal because of their public views on the Second Amendment. Now, B of A has pledged to end loans to gun manufacturers who produce military-style firearms for civilian use, and Citi put restrictions on the sale of firearms by its business customers. And Jeff Landry came on out and said, we don't want them to represent the state of Louisiana when they're going to decide to become the social police and infect Louisiana with these types of policies. And I'm in agreement. These are banks. They're credit card companies. They shouldn't be shaping public policy. All right, we're going to take a phone call here from Mateus in Canada. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Oh, hey, Michael. So it's a little bit politically incorrect for me to say this on this show, but I have good intentions. Layla mentioned yesterday that she hopes she's not offending anybody with her different opinions. And I got to say that as a Canadian, I'm feeling marginalized because 3 times in a row she called in and said that Canada was pathetic and a parasite without actually giving the reason why. To be honest, I probably don't want to hear it. She probably has a good reason. But, I mean, that's actually kind of the definition of racism when you're just doing this blanket general smear without any specific reasons. And then also she was saying, don't anybody spend your money going to Canada for tourism. So it's kind of like publicly sabotaging our tourist industry. And I just want to say, I mean, I like everything else. And I'm a fan overall. I'm just saying that other Canadians might also be feeling kind of marginalized about that. And in Canada's defense, if Canada and the States were to be 2 people that both died and went to the pearly gates, and only one of them was going to get into heaven, I mean, Canada would get in first. I mean, we didn't drop atomic bombs on people, you know, and we're not in 60 countries in war. It's like, I didn't hear any smearing of the states. And so I just wanted to say that that's my feedback on that. And
Okay, well, on that thought, I'm going to put you on hold. We got to take a break for commercials. Stay on the line. We'll be right back after these words from our sponsors.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Do you worry a lot? If you're forgetful, nervous, moody, or overwhelmed, chances are you're not protecting yourself from the ravaging effects of stress and anxiety. No matter the cause, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, your quality of life, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in as little as 1 to 2 weeks and increase your ability to recall facts, names, and numbers in 4 to 12 weeks. Calm and Clever was created by scientist Kurt Hendricks, a principal investigator in 2 NIH-funded studies on Alzheimer's disease. Try Calm and Clever for 2 months. You'll feel the difference. Call 1-800-758-8746 or go to calmandclever.com.
Did you know that neither the American Medical Association nor the American Bar Association were established to benefit the American people? Have you recognized that in our country, healthcare has little to do with health, and that our court system has nothing to do with justice? The priests of both medicine and law have been incentivized to implement a dark agenda on behalf of the Bilderbergers and their ilk. To protect ourselves and our progeny, we need to take a much closer look at how these two giant industries really work. Join me, Al Whitney, on In Defense of Humanity, Saturdays at 7 p.m. Central, as we expose the matrix and learn how not to consent to our own destruction.
Extendivite, a 7-herb combination of garlic, cayenne, hawthorn, bilberry, ginkgo biloba, valerian, and milk thistle. Extendivite is designed to strengthen the heart and arteries and help the body heal itself. Doctors are not able to explain the improvements they are seeing in their patients' health who are taking Extendivite. People who once needed more pills are now taking less and getting better. Due to the unexplainable improvements in their patients' health, more doctors are calling to order Extendivite for themselves. Help Extendivite make your doctor a believer. Extendivite is available in capsule or liquid form for just $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To get started, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
They're stealing down on Wall Street and in Washington too. It makes me wonder, what's a guy on Main Street to do? Always tried to be an honest, upstanding kind of guy. I must admit lately, I thought about giving something else a try. Oh, I want to be a pirate. I want to sail the 7 seas, yeah, I want to be a pirate.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. And we're still talking with Mateus in Canada. Aloha, Mateus. Welcome to the show. Just sort of pick up from where you, well, let's get back to what you were talking about. First of all, when Claire and I lived in Washington State, we'd go up to Canada on a regular basis. And we really liked it up there because of it's clean. Everybody's polite. And I agree with you that Layla's dissing of Canada may not be shared by other people who live in Canada, but obviously she's got a reason for feeling the way that she does. And anyway, can you just sort of continue on that topic?
Yeah, I don't want to have like a fight about it or hold any hard feelings. Like if she were to just kind of wrap it up in a slightly softer way, I would just totally let it go and just be a fan. I just wanted to put that out there that it might be turning off. Could turn off a lot of people. I almost felt like protesting and just turning off the show anytime Layla came on after those 3 dissings, and maybe other people felt the same way. So, anyways, I'm ready to just let it go. I feel satisfied that I was able to like be heard.
Okay.
And I just wanted to, on a more technical point, regarding, let's say that the debate of whether Canada is or is not a parasite to the States, I would like to argue that I don't see the States as an altruistic government organization that's going to let someone be a parasite for no reason. If there is something
Not
that seems
Israel.
parasitic... Oh, yeah, right. That's right. But we're not Israel. So I think that there's something else that the States is getting out of the relationship. And for example, something that comes to mind is our soft wood. What we do is we cut down the trees, ship them over to across the border to the States. You guys get all the jobs processing them, and then you sell it back to us with big markups and tariffs and everything. To me, that's part of the payback. Whatever Layla's arguments are that we're a parasite, that's part of like the behind the scenes making up for it. Same goes for our oil. Like we pump out oil out of the ground, ship it over to across the border, then the States refines it, gets all the jobs, marks it up, tariff sends it back, and then we get it. So I got the feeling personally that probably what's really stopping Canada from being really invaded is there's probably all sorts of ways that the States is accessing our resources in ways that are very advantageous for the States. And there's, remember when the States leaked plans to invade Canada like a year or so ago? I realized. Do you remember that? It was in the news that plans, and they were kind of the Americans were saying, oh well, it would be irresponsible if we did not have a plan of all eventualities with all of our blah blah blah. So it supposedly was an accidental leak, but now I'm getting it that was probably like an intentional leak. It was kind of sending a signal like, you do want to keep giving us your wood and your jobs, don't you? And you do want to keep sending us your oil and all the other stuff. So, I mean, I don't see that we're being babysat by the States. If there's something going on that looks good for us, there's something going on that's looking good for the States. And we're not Israel, so that's not the reason. And
well,
I just kind of leave it on a bit of a lighter note.
Yes, please.
Okay, CBS. You know how they have the eye icon, and then it's CBS? So they're actually going to be updating the spelling of their business. They're going to be changing the I icon for an actual letter I, and then the C is being changed for SEE, and then the BS, that's going to stand. So it's ICBS.
Okay.
And then for the censored Google for the Asian market, that's a big concern to everybody.
Yes.
The censored version of the Google. Well, they're actually changing the spelling also to brand it for the Asian market there, and they're changing the second G to a K. And I'll just let you go with that. Have a good show. Thanks. Bye.
All right. Thanks an awful lot. All right. We're going to let you go here. And I'm going to jump ahead in my talking points because I need to get this story out. And it's about Hurricane Lane, which is this Category 4 hurricane that we have south of the Hawaiian Islands, which has turned north. And as of the last time I checked with the Hurricane Center, the center of the storm is aimed pretty much at Oahu and is expected to basically be here Friday. So we're going to take the appropriate precautions and sheet plastic and clamps and everything to our home, but there is a distinct possibility we won't have a live show on Friday because we're going to lose electricity. But it could still veer off one way or the other, but as of right now, we're feeling very much in the crosshairs here. Okay, getting on back to political correctness. Over in California, and this is yet another reason why, even though I liked being in California when I worked in the film industry, why I would never live there again. Apparently, the legislature is getting ready to consider a bill that will require ethnic studies for high school graduation. Now, apparently, they've backed away from this because the costs estimated for a statewide mandate for ethnic studies was $400 million, and California just doesn't have it. But they're going to have a pilot program to see if they can get this going. And the idea is, supposedly ethnic studies help students develop an academic identity. It builds empathy cross-culturally. But skeptics are saying the state can't afford to have this course, and saying that the state shouldn't be reinforcing identity politics. If anything, they should be shrinking the achievement gap for the Black and Latino students. And I'm in agreement with that one. Our school should be about educating our kids in the basic skills needed to either go on to college or go out into the job market. We're talking about reading, writing, math, science, engineering, critical thinking, automotive repair. Our high school had an auto shop. I used to love shop class, especially working with the lathes. That stuff was fun. It was cool. Ethnic studies, it really is. I'm glad they backed off on it, but they did so only because of the money. Okay. Apparently, there's been another child pornography ring shut down by Michigan police. And apparently, out of Detroit, the FBI arrested and interviewed a man who was in possession of child pornography. And during the interrogations, he told the agents he was a member of a group of people using the internet to lure minors to engage in sexually explicit conduct via the webcam. And this is sick. It's really sick. I just have a real problem with that stuff here. Okay, Mike Huckabee is now saying that he has also been targeted by Facebook. And he's joining the chorus of voices saying there's very clearly a political bias among these top tech companies. And more people are coming forward and saying, yeah, this is really going on. So in a recent Fox Business Network interview, Mike Huckabee said he'd experienced adverse impact from Facebook and its algorithms based on what he believes is the conservative content he posts to his page. And he said he's been subjected to some of Facebook's censorship, if you could call it that. And he says, technically, it's not censorship since they're not a government, but they're almost acting like a monopolistic government entity. Well, I'm sorry, Mike, I disagree with you. Censorship is censorship. One does not have to be a government to be censoring content. One merely has to have their finger on the wire, so to speak. And I think somebody needs to take a case all the way to the Supreme Court to establish freedom of speech is a universal. Apparently, Facebook has started a new system of rating the trustworthiness of every user. And it's all very secret. They're assigning a rating, trustworthiness between 0 and 1. They say they're doing it to try and cut down on fake news on the platform. But again, it's another form of social profiling. And Facebook isn't saying how they do it. And based on Facebook's behavior up to this point, I imagine if you're a conservative, your trustworthiness score gets suppressed of that. So we're seeing these big tech companies are now openly censoring popular viewpoints, conservative viewpoints. They're deleting selected social media pages for violating community guidelines. That's the boilerplate answer. But they never say exactly what it is that you did. And there's no explanation about why YouTube and Facebook delete user-generated pages. Now, according to this article, which came out of Waking Times, and apparently they had their Facebook page throttled down, they're saying that this type of censorship is not going to bring about the Soviet-style clampdown on ideas that challenge the establishment. It's more reasonable to expect that these companies have fallen prey to monopolistic hubris and will soon see massive declines in viewership. Actually, it's already happening. That's why they're having to fake their readership numbers to keep their ad revenues up here. So they're predicting that these big tech companies are committing suicide. And I think that very well might be happening because we're seeing these new startup social media companies, of which there are many. They're taking off. People are using them. Now, finally, Donald Trump is speaking out, blasting the tech industry for its rampant bias against right-wingers. He did it in a bunch of tweets, which there are some liberals out there saying that Twitter ought to ban Donald Trump now. I want to see, Donald, I want to see something more than a tweet on this. Anyway. So Microsoft came out a little while ago with the announcement that foreign entities were launching cyber attacks to disrupt elections and sow discord among the American public. It said some governments, without specifying who, were attempting to steal and leak information and spread disinformation. And they were out there just hue and cry, and everybody's out there being scared about it. And they finally got around to saying, you know, Russia's in there, Russia's in there, Russia's in there. The Kremlin is basically saying it's all completely groundless. And as it turns out, they're right. Because it's a sales campaign. Microsoft has a new product out called Account Guard software, which it wants to sell to congressional candidates and campaigns as part of its Defending Democracy program. And what they're basically talking about is this special cybersecurity protection that are using Office 365, Outlook, or Hotmail cloud services. And those who take up the offer will put their emails, internal strategy papers, and financial records onto Microsoft-owned and administered servers where Microsoft personnel will have a special eye on them. That's an awful lot of political intelligence in one place. Have you seen those little Fitbits? They're these little bracelet things that communicate with you, or with your computer, about your fitness, how much you're walking, how much you're running. But apparently researchers have, up at the University of British Columbia, are saying that Fitbits are only right about half the time. They tend to overestimate the number of steps taken by users aiming to achieve the recommended 10,000 per day. And these researchers said that Fitbit monitors should not be used for research purposes because they are so inaccurate. Certainly right about that one here. So let's get on to Monsanto. As you know, Monsanto was hit with a major defeat in court in the case of Dwayne Lee Johnson, where between damages for medical bills and punitive damages, the court basically awarded $289 million in damages to Dwayne. Now, he himself, being at the late stage of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, he himself may not see the money because Monsanto is appealing and they're going to try and drag it out and drag it out and drag it out and drag it out. But Dwayne Johnson is now making a tour of the media explaining why he did what he did and saying that he's happy about the trial's outcome, obviously, that he didn't want to die for nothing, and that the main reason he did this was to make sure others came to understand the potential damage of using the weed killer. Now, this is probably going to trigger a flood of additional lawsuits from people who've been using these products and they've come down with these cancers because there's now a legal precedent. We might actually see the federal government move to indemnify Monsanto the way they did the vaccine companies. Remember back with the Homeland Security Act? There was a provision in there that literally said you cannot civilly sue a vaccine maker for damage caused by their products because they're essential to whatever it was they were essential to. There's a lot of corporations that are getting a free ride courtesy of the United States government. Computers and software providers, the vaccine industry. I wouldn't put it past them to say, nope, you can't sue Monsanto anymore. It's a critical part of our agricultural infrastructure. As you know, the corporate media has been out there blaming these Western wildfires on global warming. It's all about global warming. Forget about the fact that they've arrested a couple of arsons. Forget about the fact that they know that the car fire was started by sparks from a flat tire on a road vehicle. It's global warming. It's global warming. More about this when we come back from these commercials.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll-free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
I'm getting older and noticing that my body just doesn't work as well as it used to. So I like to keep fit as possible by hitting the gym a few times a week. Recently, I started having a nagging bicep pain, and it got so bad I couldn't even lift the weights. When I was complaining about it to a friend, he told me about Angioprim. He said chelation helps remove toxins, heavy metals, and cholesterol in veins and arteries that may cause blockages. You know, after just 1 week of taking Angioprim, the pain was gone, and now I'm back in the gym full strength. Scientific research proves the active ingredient in Angioprim has superior oral chelation action that helps promote cardiovascular health. So to learn more, go to angioprim.com. That's ANGIOPRIM.com, or talk to a trained consultant. Call Angioprim toll-free at 877-882-7221. You'll feel better with more energy. Call 877-882-7221 or go to the website angioprim.com.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Visit us online at whatreallyhappened.com. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. Last segment of our program today, and we're talking about how the global warming people are out there trying to say that all these fires out west are the fault of global warming, even though arsonists have been arrested, and we know that the car fire was started by an incident on the roadway that threw sparks into the brush, which hadn't been cut back far enough to prevent that sort of thing. But apparently, this AP writer, Seth Borenstein, was out there just trying to say, well, you know, the number of fires is going up and global temperatures are going up. And scientists are saying these two data trends, just putting them together, it's not science. It could be a causal relation. And we know that in many cases, the temperature data is being fudged anyway to serve the global warming agenda. But they're still out there pushing that nonsense. Meanwhile, over in Japan, it snowed. This is the earliest ever recorded snow in Japan. It's going to be a very, very hard winter. And you know what the carbon Nazis are going to be saying is that, well, it's snowy where you are, but take our word for it. It's boiling hot everywhere else. It's just broiling, absolutely. I mean, look at this temperature data from this thermometer we have set up in the middle of the airport, where it's being blasted by burning kerosene all day long. Look how at that temperature. Now, it wasn't all that long ago that China, concerned about overpopulation, had a one-child policy. Well, that was then, this is now. And China, like Japan, is facing a demographic crisis. And China's desire now is to have couples have more children. And to do that, they're imposing a tax on childless couples to encourage more fertility, as it were. Okay, yesterday we ran the story about how there'd been all these earthquakes around the Ring of Fire, including a magnitude 8 out by Fiji, which, by the way, is still getting aftershocks here. And I was noticing during the show, I'm getting all these tsunami warnings on my watch here. There have been a lot of quakes. There was just a 6.7 in Vanuatu, along with earlier today, there was this magnitude 7.3 in Venezuela. So the planet is really rocking and rolling. Looks like they just had another, a bunch of them up here in Alaska as well. So interesting time to be a seismologist, what can I tell you? Alrighty, over in Europe, they've had an outbreak of measles. The World Health Organization is saying that the number of measles cases in Europe jumped sharply during the first 6 months of this year. At least 37 people have died. My question is, how many of these people had the measles vaccine? Because we've seen this pattern before. They'll go on out, they'll sell the measles vaccine, everybody will get it, and then all of a sudden everybody gets sick. And finally, and Trump tweeted about this as well, Netflix has scrapped Michelle Wolf's series just a few months after it debuted. Now, if you remember, Michelle Wolf grabbed headlines in late April at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, where she made a lot of jokes aimed at President Trump and his administration, which were so over the top, a lot of people just sat silent, others simply left. So she's no longer on Netflix. Okay, there's the music time for me to get on out of here. Please stay tuned for John Stadmiller. I'm sure that he has got lots and lots of interesting things to share with you. And please take what you learn here, share it with everyone that you know. Please talk to everybody you know about this deplatforming, this purge of the independent media of all conservative points of view. We cannot allow that to stand in the United States of America. We'll be back tomorrow. Aloha, America.